talked about, it said, it's a positive blurb, and then it said, it's like having, reading this book is like having Cheryl with us for just one more moment. And I'm like, no, it's nothing like having Cheryl with us. Unless this book can roll its eyes and kiss me on the forehead, it is nothing like having Cheryl with us, right? But when somebody dies, what's left is their story. And I think, the folks have gotten up, and there's so many more people that we should be thanking, that when we were talking about the acknowledgements page, we're like, it could be pages and pages long, because this has been such a community. There's so many people who've been involved, so many people that have contributed in so many different ways. And if you think about it, we've actually changed the ending of the story, right? Not for Cheryl, but if you think about the story, Cheryl fought to escape both New Jersey and Staten Island and her insane, abusive family, and find a place where she belonged, find her awesome place, and she did, and she struggled with drugs and alcohol, and then she got sober, and then she died, okay? As opposed to Cheryl struggled to leave Staten Island and New Jersey and find her awesome place, and she died, and then her community got together and made sure that her work continued on and published a book of her work after she was dead. That's actually a pretty different story. And those of us who are in this room, we have very, very much, probably every single one of us have had the experience of a book changing our lives, right? Perhaps even saving our lives. So in that way, we've changed the story, not just for Cheryl, but for also, there's lots more people like Cheryl. There's lots more young girls in New Jersey whose parents can't even imagine that they would want to go to college, right? And so by making sure that Cheryl's voice and story gets out there, we have changed the story for them as well. So I'm going to read just a couple quick parts. So my job was to put together the epilogue, or the afterward. And so I did two things. I wrote a little bit, first I took Cheryl's blog, the WTF Cancer Diaries, and strung some of them together with some more explanation. As Cheryl got sicker, she wrote less, and so I wrote a little bit more just to try and make the narrative. Then I added a little bit of my own in the beginning. So the first part I'm going to read is just a little bit Cheryl describing, this was after she had been diagnosed with Hodgkin's, but before they decided on the final treatment, when she was kind of doing this boot camp of all these medical tests. And this is talking about her a bone marrow biopsy. My bone marrow biopsy was at the very least the most ominous sounding procedure on the menu the week before I started chemo. It turned out the pleasant young female oncologist I had met the previous week, when she professed an affinity for doing such deep extractions, would do the honors right in her office. Kelli and I arrived early for the appointment, eager to get it over with. As soon as we entered the exam room, we were privy to various sharp objects lying in wait on a tray. This had happened to me before while anticipating a gynecological procedure, but these tools seemed even more spectacularly medieval than the ones at the gyno. These bitches will cut your bones, I thought. As the doc explained in horrifying detail what would be done, I zoned out. Please, just put me in a K-hole and do whatever you need to do, I thought. I'd never done the drug K, but I'd been around others in its depressing, zombified state. That seemed about right for this procedure. After the tutorial, I laid down on my left side, where Kelli sat looking into my eyes as the doctor found a good spot on my right pelvic bone, i.e. my butt, to take the plunge. Needle pricks, local anesthetic, so far so good. I'm going to go get into the bone now with some anesthetic. Believe me, you're going to want this, the doc said, as if from a distance. I winced. Kelli offered, "You're doing great, honey. I love you so much." I sound so over the top in this, but anyway. Wow, that hurts. Are you fucking serious? I gasped, followed by tears. I'm sorry about this. You're doing great, the doc said. Then there was a short break before she came out with me with another implement. Now I'm going to get the marrow sample, getting into the bone. Less pain, thanks to the anesthesia, but incredible discomfort, more tears. Kelli kissed my forehead, then the doc delved deeper into my bone. You're doing fantastic, both women said. See, over the top. I love you so much, Kelli added. You're so beautiful. An uncomfortable, I know, right? I make myself a little sick to my stomach. An uncomfortable intimacy took over the situation as if we were participating in a surprise three-way. My girlfriend caressing my face as the doc worked up a rhythm, her tool thrusting in and out of my backside. Finally, she got what she was after, placed it in a specimen jar where it formed a red globule, not unlike those in a lava lamp. Got it! Beautiful, the doc said, holding it up. Now I just need to get a tiny piece of bone. So I took that as an example of like Cheryl's absolutely hilarious writing in her blog, and especially in the early days. All right. So then when I got done with my part of putting together the afterword, I sent it to Sarah, and she was like, "Yeah, but what do you have to say? You have to say what you have to say." And when Sarah Schulman tells you to say what you have to say, you just say, "Okay, I will." So this is what I wrote. I met Cheryl in 2004 on a Tuesday night at the Atomic Reading Series she was hosting in a Brooklyn bar. I thought she was beautiful, very classy, and totally out of my league, but I flirted in what I hoped was an adorable fashion. She was polite and kind, as she was to everyone who read her series, but she gave absolutely no indication of romantic or sexual interest. We would periodically perform at the same events or run into each other on the street. She dated other people, and when I noticed her Facebook status read single for what seemed like a respectable amount of time, I emailed her the traditional ambiguous lesbian social offer. A vague coffee invite. We had coffee, went to a mutual friend's one-woman show, and then somehow ended up awkwardly and passionately making out in the back room of a gay men's bar in the East Village. We both drank Red Bull and lapsed into stilted silences whenever we stopped the nerdy makeout session to get some air. Later in the evening, Cheryl said, "So, I guess this was definitely a date then?" And we both laughed so hard that the horny men stopped their cruising long enough to crane their heads around and see what the middle-aged dykes were laughing at. It was like that with us, always the awkward laughter, always some juxtaposition, not quite fitting in. I am a round, open-faced Midwestern eater of all things beefy. She was a smart, hard-edged, beautiful New Yorker down to her soul. We didn't really fit in with each other, but we quickly learned to be each other's home. We played a game we called New York Went, trying to remember what we were doing on a specific day in the 90s. She as a performance poet/artist, and me as a Roman Catholic nun. When we discovered that on Thanksgiving 1994, I was delivering dinners to homebound senior citizens in the West Village, while she did coke off a woman's ass at a house party not even a few blocks away, we mostly lost interest. There was no way to top that. We fussed over each other in a way that neither of us had permitted a partner to fuss. I remember one spring morning, she had made me a lunch to take to an all-day work meeting. She handed it to me as I walked out. "I guess I have some Italian mom in me after all," she said, kissing me, and then added, "Go wash your face again, you still smell like my pussy." I started, "So that's what Italian mom..." She cut me off, "Oh, shut up." And then a full 5 minutes of laughter, swelling, then fading, then swelling again. I leaned up against the door jamb. She sat on the kitchen floor. It pleases me as much as anything in this situation can actually be pleasing to say that we were not a couple who took our relationship for granted. We knew what we had, knew how rare it was. We screamed hard and frequently and cuddled the shit out of each other. We had arguments, but we knew how to deal with them, and we didn't try to pretend that either one of us was not in some ways deeply, deeply broken. It didn't take cancer for us to see what we had. We already fucking knew. The last thing I'm going to read is the last thing I believe that Cheryl wrote, as far as I know. And this actually was the last, before she was hospitalized, the Saturday before she was hospitalized, she went and taught at her Gotham class. And she could like barely walk, but she insisted on taking public transportation to her Gotham class. So this was on her blog. It's dated March 2011. But she wrote it actually after she was in the hospital. "I know you're a very important person that's got to get somewhere to do important things with other VIPs, and the slack subway stair climb of my healthy-seeming body reminds you of human limitations, and you don't like to be reminded of limits, so you sigh under your breath wondering, what is wrong with this bitch? If I could, I would look at myself sideways as well, holding onto the rail, pulling myself up one stair, then another, as my chest seems to explode from within, toxic lungs from chemo. My heart overcompensates for my defects again. A woman, I apologize too much. Say I'm sorry to inanimate objects and the dimwits behind me. Sometimes I hate this city. In the morning, a girl rocks back and forth on the train, cool sneakers, blue nail color applied by an expert. I wonder about her condition. Could be a hangover or maybe a chronic illness. She walks from one pole to another, touching each one, perhaps OCD or saving off the spins. It all looks the same to me now. She still has on her jacket and a cell phone, I'm glad to see. Let's hope her keys are in her pocket and she'll be all right. Thank you.